morning, everybody, and welcome to another Insane Productivity Mortgage Coach Mastermind every Friday, 9 o'clock Pacific. So we've got a great crew on today's call. I can see a lot of familiar names and faces. And then it's cool. I'm also seeing a lot of folks that, you know, we've been doing this for over 40 weeks now, and we just opened it to the public. I think this is the third week where we're opening it to, you know, the mortgage coach community. And so I'm seeing a lot of folks come back. Although I'm also not seeing a few folks that came back, and I also don't get the feeling that everybody is playing it forward. You know, make sure that you let others who are in the mortgage coach community, like-minded mortgage professionals, know that we're here every Friday, 9 o'clock, to help you be more personally productive and to help you, grow your personal production level. So this call, well, myself, Todd, all the mentors have been through Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity. So that is the theme, improving productivity, talking about concepts from Darren's program. Anything and everything is a topic. Do want to shine a light on our YouTube page. Excuse me, not YouTube page, but our Facebook private page. If you've not been through Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity program, there is a link and a $500 discount to signing up for that. Just cannot recommend that enough. Also, I did post a question. What does everyone want to talk about? Does everybody have a topic or a question? Kristen Cooper, great job. I love your topic. She put out here success strategies on how to balance marketing to and supporting referral partners while still having time to be rational, not transactional with customers. By the way, be relational, not transactional with customers. So, Kristen, we will talk about that. I see Todd weighed in here. Would like to see more comments. So just a push to everybody in the community. This is a mastermind call, and it's only as valuable as the engagement from you. If you're on this call, the questions you ask make a difference. The ideas that you share make a difference. Raising your hand, being unmuted, engaging makes a difference. So with that said, I see that Jen has her hand raised. Jen, I'm going to bring you back into, how do I do that? Hey, Marcy, I just realized I am an organizer. For some reason, I don't have the power to bring Jen into the back room. If you could promote her to a panelist, please. All right, we got Dave Gallegos here as a mentor. What's up, Dave?
How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to have you, brother. We've got, thank you. By the way, do you have any topics today? Things you want to make sure?
No, I kind of what Todd said. I got Todd's Win by Noon book, and so kind of inspired me to go like, yeah, let's talk about the productivity stuff and insane productivity stuff as much as anything. And so that I like what Todd brought up.
Beautiful. We'll put that on the list. Michelle Town, what's up? It's good to have you here as a mentor today.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday. Do you have any topics for today? Anything you want to make sure we cover?
Oh, I think getting back into the insane productivity, talking about jam sessions and talking about letting our emails rule us is really a great topic for now.
Okay, so we'll make jam sessions a theme. Because I also think, Kristen Cooper, if you're on the call, raise your hand. I want to know you're here. But if you're not on the call live, you can listen to the recording. Want to make sure we answer this. And there's no doubt jam sessions is going to be part of the answer. So, Todd Bookspan, what's up, my man? Welcome to the call. And thanks for being here as a co-host.
No, super excited always. It's just a fun cap to my week to be here with all of you. So excited to get this party started.
Right on. Well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because the call, I opened it. Now it's Mastermind. We're going to make it about you. So if you do have questions, either post your questions in the GoToWebinar question section. And so far, I see 0 questions. Also, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. I want to start the call on 2 themes. One, I want to keep some accountability around using video to enhance productivity. So I do want to open the call asking the question again, how often are you creating videos as a mortgage professional. Whether that is a mortgage coach total cost analysis video, whether that's a daily show that you create, whether you just picked up your mobile phone and recorded a memo to a client. You use it to be more effective with how you communicate. No rules around it. How often are you creating videos? By the way, only 48% of you have voted. The goal is to have 70, again, this is Mastermind, so 70% need to engage, need to participate. For those where 40% have not voted, let's get it above 70. Looks like a dozen of you. If you vote real quick, okay, boom. We got 70%. So Todd and mentors, here's the results. I mean, we really moved the needle. It looks like we've got double the number of folks when I did this survey a couple weeks ago that are doing daily. We've now got more than 50% of you doing, or almost 50% of you doing video weekly, and we've got 65% doing video monthly. So, and never has gone down. So Todd, any commentary on this?
I just love seeing it. When I was originating, it was really empowering to get a video out. I did it every week, 2 minutes with Todd, to my database. I think you can actually still look them up in YouTube. They're not very good. In fact, my coach always joked the reason it was successful is because I wasn't very good, and I kind of thought, well, that's not very nice. But he always joked. He said, well, no, I didn't mean it that way. It's not polished, right? I didn't have a fancy introduction at the middle with video flashing around. It was just me, welcome people, and walking through. And I think the biggest challenge is always thinking about what to say when you do the video. And if you really step back for a second, most of you know what to say. And if you don't know what to say, you can get it online in the mortgage coach community. Especially, there's always something to talk about, whether it's what's going on with the jobs report today, or if it's how was your July 4th? I mean, telling your own story, but for me, it was always just a little personal anecdote. It was always an update with quoting Freddie Mac interest rates to be compliant, and then typically something that was going on in the economic market when that was my focus. And there was other times where I pushed things like HARP or pushed other things, and so don't be scared of it. I would just give it a try, and it doesn't have to be super fabulous. It just needs to be you, and I think you'll do great. So I love seeing more people do it. And if you missed Dave's call a couple weeks ago where he talked about it, make sure that you watch it.
Yeah, and I also want a big thing. 74% of the people on the call voted. That means you participated in this mastermind format. So great job on that. So before we get into jam sessions, Todd, let's just do a little bit of follow-up on the big news from last week. You released your new book, Win by Noon. Super grateful that you introduced that on this call. So thank you for making the Insane Productivity community the first to hear about this, learn about this. How did you do? How many folks from our community signed up and took you up on getting the new book and taking action?
I was super surprised. I mean, about half the people on the call last week bought, and then some of my friends and clients who have them were posting, and we basically sold through 3/4 of the first printing, and already had a second order pending, and I tripled the size of that in anticipation of just the follow-up. I've had a lot of team members buy it, team leaders buy it, and then buying them for their team members and whatnot. So I mean, I'm just grateful for all of you guys who bought it. And, I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's pretty darn good, and I'm getting great feedback already. And as we kind of continue each quarter, we're going to continue to evolve it into a better and better product.
Love it. Well, I was blown away. You sent me a copy, which I'm grateful to have. I have supreme confidence it's going to add a lot of value to the mortgage industry, and it's going to add a lot of value to the mortgage coach community. If anybody has questions for Todd, feel free to raise your hand or submit those in GoToWebinar. I had one big question, which was, in your book, you talk about on time, and I just want to know what is the difference between, and my mouse is carrying over it. You made it so it's part of the daily activity totals. How is on time in your definition different than jam sessions? I'd just be curious to hear how you answer that.
My definition, it's not. I mean, it's really, it's funny because there's so many different ways to people describe the same thing. And, in Building Champions where I coach, they've always called it on time. And so I use that term with their permission versus, versus Steele and Darren's jam session. But for me, it's just time where you're stepping away and working on your business. And so, there's definitely some themes from Insane Productivity, that are woven in here with your top 3 activities for the day, right? Darren calls it your vital few. And ultimately in the end, I think it's the number one thing that can move your business forward if you actually carve out time, as Darren says, in a bubble of silence where you're not getting interrupted and you actually are being proactive about working on things and not just getting dragged into the reactive mode that most of us spend most of our day in. And so I put it on there so that people could tally it, really to look at it. And it's not typically a daily activity for everyone. Darren would say, yeah, it should be the first thing you do every morning for 90 minutes. And that's just hard, I think, for most people in the mortgage industry. But for me, like right now, I'm actually spending 30 minutes a morning, a minimum, right? To me, it's kind of, I get momentum. If I get 30 minutes in, I tend to typically get, 45 minutes to an hour. But I'm committed to a minimum of 30 minutes to be working on Win by Noon. So I'm actually committed to work on the other pieces of the puzzle that I need to get going as we continue to grow the product.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to distinguish, and one of the reasons why we created this mastermind, for the mortgage professionals is, hey, let's face it, Darren is a professional speaker, author, creator of content, and speaking to large groups of people. A mortgage professional, for a living, communicates with a lot of families, individuals, both, realtors and referral partners and folks. So, I mean, what a loan officer does for a living and what is the perfect rhythm for a loan officer is different than, Darren. It's also different if your job was an accountant. It'd be different. If your job was a computer program, it would be different. I mean, a computer programmer, they live in jam session mode. They should be doing, 6 hours to 7 hours a day in jam sessions. Mortgage professional is different. So before we drill down on jam sessions, which I do want to do in this call, what are some other things about the framework that you have in Win by Noon that kind of mirror some of the concepts and philosophies of Insane Productivity? If you could just speak to that real quick.
Well, I mean, again, I think that if you think through how most of us approach life, right? I mean, there's so many things that Darren talks about, whether it's multitasking, whether it's, what are your vital priorities, what are you measuring, what are your metrics, right? So, I mean, most of those concepts are kind of woven into sort of the framework and structure here, just with what a loan officer does and how a loan officer approaches their day. And, really in the end, the whole idea of Win by Noon, and I talked about it last week, I stumbled on it, right? It's really in retrospect when I look back at my most successful point in my career where, in a year I took, almost 500 applications in 1 year, personally, closed a lot of business. I was doing a lot and I was leading my team. And, in the end, I got my stuff done when I did it in the morning by noon. And so, for me, it's not going to be a philosophy that'll work for everybody, but I do think if you go through, those of you especially who've been through Insane Productivity, you'll see a lot of those pieces are kind of woven in there. And really all I've tried to do is take, some of the little pieces, right? Like, did you do your morning routine? There's a check mark for that, right? Did you do your evening routine? Yep, there's a check mark for that. So, the bookends of the day and just kind of the other pieces that we know Darren thinks you need to do to be successful as a leader and an entrepreneur, and then put in the loan officer spin on it that we all know in this community is really important for us to make sure that we accomplish if we're going to continue to grow our business, which is definitely what the goal is.
Love it, love it. Let's see if there's any questions that have come in for you. What is the website for Win by Noon? It is winbynoon.com. So there you have it. Dave, thanks for the question. If anybody else has a question, let me know. Let me check to see if we have any hands raised. Questions for Todd?
I did throw the mortgage coach, all one word, code back on there today. My marketing guy probably any moment is going to have it back up there. He was out buying a birthday cake for my business partner, but it's going to be on there to give free shipping. There's a we only ran it originally as a 1 day / 2 day promotion, and a lot of people tried to use it last week, and so my marketing guy gave me a list of it. We're going to go through and refund anyone who tried to use the code last week and it didn't work. We'll refund the shipping on it. Seemed like everyone was pretty excited to get them. We're shipping them out all priority mail, so anyone who orders in theory today, probably should have it Monday, Tuesday at the latest, but Yeah, I'm dying to get feedback from from those who are using it. I've already heard from people now 1 week in who are excited to tally up the first week's results today, and just kind of start measuring what it is. I had some of my clients that were test piloting for the last couple of months, and so it's kind of fun now. They're starting to see, some of them have 1 month, some of them have 2 months of data conversion rates, and so we're going to start building a database of conversion rates so you can kind of see, all right, how am I doing, right? Is my conversion rate comparable to somebody else's? And certainly in the future, I'll spend some time posting some videos up to the website there, with regards to what different conversion rates can look like. Certainly somebody who's sitting in a real estate office is going to have different conversion rates than someone who's working with a team that gets, Zillow or Boomtown leads, and that's going to be different than someone who's just working with, their database and Sphere. I mean, all that's going to vary, and so that'll be kind of fun to get some pretty accurate numbers so that you have an idea how you're doing compared to your peers. And really, more importantly, your whole goal is to compare it to yourself, right? How did I do last year, and how am I doing this year? It's always that idea for continual improvement.
Yeah, and I am going to be putting a push out to everybody in the mortgage coach community, and especially in this mastermind, that we're transparent and we share, conversion rates. And again, this whole call is about improving your production, improving your personal productivity, and rapidly growing personal production. So being transparent around your conversion rates, I think just putting and shining a light on that in this community will add a lot of value. So, anybody who's willing to fill this out and take a picture of it and share it on Facebook, we want to push you to do that. I think it's a great opportunity. So a couple other things before we get into jam sessions, which I'm going to open it up in a minute to do that. I want to shine a light on the fact that if you go to our Facebook page and there's files, we have a lot of files that have been submitted here. Like I was just showing the 12 insane reminders. So these are the 12 reminders of an insanely productive mortgage professional. You can download that here. Todd is going to add something, a download of, not his whole book, but a preview of it. So that'll be here within a couple weeks. The Mortgage Coach Why worksheet is here. And then, there's been a lot of folks that have just added things to add value. Todd added his, SAW activity tracker. We have, a Building Champions Living Forward template. So I just wanted to shine a light that within this Facebook group, there's a lot of value. Also, the recording of all these calls are posted in Mortgage Coach community. So not only are they in our YouTube channel, but they also get posted on this call. So I want everybody to realize that there is a playlist for all 44 of the Insane Productivity Masterminds that we've had. These are all open to the public now. And, every call that we've had for, 40 plus weeks is available on our YouTube channel. And last week we focused on Win by Noon. The week before we focused on video. And today we're going to have a focus on jam sessions. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew that those resources were available. So one
Dave,
call, yeah, go ahead.
Dave, let me interrupt you for 1 sec. If somebody's on the call who didn't purchase Insane Productivity and wants to be part of the community, how should they reach out to you to get into that private group?
Yeah. So it's pinned to the top. Sign up for Insane Productivity. There is a link, and I will also put that there is a $500 scholarship that Mortgage Coach invested, so took the price from $1,400 to $995, or you could do 3 installments of $365. So there is the place to sign up for it. There you go. Thanks for the question, Todd. All right. So let's get into jam sessions. I'm going to start by pushing a poll that says how many jam sessions did you do last week? And if you don't know what a jam session is, obviously say 0. By the way, Marcy, let's upgrade this question. And given that jam sessions are such a cornerstone to being insanely productive, we're going to ask this question from time to time. But let's have an answer where it's like, I don't know what a jam session is. So we just kind of, we understand how many people just don't know what one is. So 50% of you have voted, guys. Remember, this is a mastermind. The more you engage, ask questions, share feedback, the more valuable today's call is. I'm at 55%. I'm just gonna require 70% participation. So we're gonna stay on this poll until I get 70% or more of you to vote. Troy Root, what's up? Anybody who wants to raise their hand and talk and share about your jam session? So there we go. Here are the results. So 4% of you had 5 or more. So that's, you were on time. 9% did 3 to 5. 22% did 1 to 3. And 64% were a combination of didn't do any. And also some of those people, Todd, they just probably don't know what a jam session is. Anything you want to say to that, Todd?
You know, I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised if that makes sense, right? It's so hard in our business. You know, last week was the end of the month, and you know, we're going headed to a holiday weekend, and we have so many things going on. So I'm not surprised to see the number not be big, and we'll talk in a minute about what a jam session is for those who don't know. But I'm here to implore anyone who's not doing them to, I mean, a minimum of 1 a week. I can just say it was, you know, again, it is from the coach's chair now. Seeing other clients, the clients who are stagnant are the ones who react, and they're just not growing because they're not really spending time to be proactive, to work on their business, and we'll talk about maybe some strategies of how to be prepared for it and jump in. But I don't know, are you surprised by the numbers, Dave?
Well, no, I'm not. I mean, it's always just like success. You know, there's a 5%, a 10%, a 20%, and again, in this particular case, I'm sure there's a lot of folks that just don't understand the language yet. So no, but Dave Gallegos, any thoughts on it, and any advice you have to the community and the folks on today's call about jam sessions?
Well, I'm glad we're talking about them, because it is one of those things that, like you both alluded to, where, you know, if you go through insane productivity and you get to the jam session section, that following week, if you're paying attention and you are of the mind to do it, you'll do several jam sessions. I think we've all done that. And then just as time goes by, they start to fall off. You're not doing them as consistently, and that's been my experience. That's why I go through it every year. That's why I do the same productivity thing again at the end of every year, or at the beginning of every year, is because I know that I'm just tuning it up. And so I'm not surprised at the frequency that we're seeing on the surveys, because if I had been voting, I would have been a 3, and that's not even close to what I should be doing. So it's you know, you got to be mindful, right? And you got to stay with it.
Michelle Town, any thoughts from you? Any leadership? Any ideas?
I would tell everybody consistency is everything. Just from personal experience, I know that you guys know switching companies was tough, and it threw me off kilter. And before the call, I told everybody I was so glad that this week I actually got back to my normal routine, and knowing that my chaos was self-induced because I didn't follow my routines during this process. I made it a little bit harder for myself. Jam sessions are so important to me. I do minimum 3 a week. And it's when I do my best thinking, I get my best and highest results.
There's no doubt. You know, I mean, you said something when we were behind, before the call started, and we were all talking as mentors. You said something about chaos. What was it you said? It was like actually a really good quote.
For me, my chaos was self-induced because I created it myself. And I was so glad to be back to my normal routine. So what I did was, when I decided to move companies, I focused everything on being transactional again because I needed to. And what happened was, I stopped all my routines. I stopped my Darren Dailies. I stopped my insane productivity. I stopped my jam sessions. Whoa. And it was chaos.
Guys, getting out? Hey, Todd,
Hello?
Did everybody hear Michelle in rapid repeat mode, or was that just me?
No, I heard it fine.
Yeah, I think it was just you. Can you hear us, Dave?
Can you hear me, Todd?
Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you now, Dave.
I think Dave can't hear us.
Yeah.
I think Dave can't hear us. So, all right. Well, let me. I'll take a little bit of leadership then. So who wants to define what a jam session is? Because I think we've got people on the call who are unfamiliar with the term. Who wants to take a shot at it?
I will.
Go for it, Dave.
So it's intentional work where you turn off access to, or anything that has access to you. So your phone goes on mute, your cell phone goes away, so if you're at a desk, your desk phone goes on mute, your email is shut down, and I use a desktop timer on my computer. So I set a 90-minute timer, and I've done 60 minutes. It doesn't have to be a 90-minute deal, but I've done 60 minutes, but 90-minute timer where I'm not going to get up for the next 90 minutes, and I'm just going to work on whatever it is in front of me that needs to be accomplished. And you have to know, I think that's part of maybe a challenge at times, Todd, maybe for you, is that what exactly are you going to do in that jam session? I think that's where a lot of times people, I got to do a jam session every day, but they don't know what they're going to work on. So that's an important part of the aspect. But that's it in a nutshell.
And I think that's huge, right? And so, I mean, I could tell a personal story. So I'm in San Francisco. I'm here with my wife and daughter at a conference, and I went to Starbucks the other morning. Starbucks here opens at 4:30. I went there, and they have security guards. It's kind of crazy. We don't have that in Phoenix. And I got there, and I knew I was going to be working on Win by Noon. I was doing some research on some web products, but I didn't really have a defined list. And so I normally carry around what I call my on-time folder, and so it's got everything I'm going to use for a jam session is in there. So if it's a project or something I'm going to do, I have it there. But here I didn't have it with me. I'm on vacation, and I really brought limited stuff with me. And I got in there, and all of a sudden I got off track. I was on Facebook. I was checking my email. I was distracted, and here I am. I'm a guy who talks about how to do these things successfully all the time. So I think you're totally right, Dave. You have to go in there with a mission. What is it I'm going to work on, right? So I always say it's a time to work on projects, right? So for a lot of my clients right now, they're doing research on potential referral partners. For a lot of my clients, it's working on scripting for those for going after partners. I got people who are doing the thing we've heard about before, where they're sending a book to go after referral partners and then follow phone calls, and what is that follow-up plan going to look like? So people need to be prepared to go in with something really specific. But I think, Dave, you kind of hit the nail on the head. You got to be in that bubble of silence, as Darren calls it, where everything is off. And Darren will even say it, if you went through Insane Productivity, you would see at the end of the second module, he says, all right, your homework is to do 3 of these 90-minute jam sessions, but he says you got to do it first thing in the morning before you check your email. And I think that's where, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but for me, that's where I always got distracted. Once I was in my email, even if I only had 2 or 3 emails, those emails dictated what it was I was going to do. If I left my email off and I focused on what I was going to do, I was able to get a start.
Well, without a doubt, email is the monster, right? I think Darren said once that it made sense to have a second computer without email on it that you go and work at when you're doing a jam session. So I've never done that.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so, one thing is you don't have to open your email. You know what I mean? You don't even have to have
come
it open.
on. You make it sound so easy.
I know, it's so funny. I wanted to just inject a couple things to maybe help everyone, because I do my jam sessions first thing in the morning or in the evening. Okay, so it depends on the day, depends on what I have going on. I do not do them at work. And I think that is how I'm able to do 5 or more a week. And so, we've talked about my daily routine. I'll just share it with those that haven't heard before. But, my daily routine is from 7 to 8 in the morning. I'm doing my savers, my morning miracle, right, to get my head on straight. And then I'm doing a jam session for an hour from 8 to 9. And then at night, from 9 to 10, I make my phone calls. At 10 o'clock, I do a daily huddle with my team, and then I'm out. I'm doing what I do best, which is networking and teaching and selling and meeting clients, et cetera. And that is pretty much how my day looks virtually every day. Unless there's a conference I'm going to in the morning or something, the same 3 hours every morning. And it allows me to get my jam session in. So that's number one. Now, like I said, if I have a conference in the morning, then I'll move my jam session to the night. I've mentioned before about don't erase it, replace it. If you can't get your jam session in at 10 o'clock when you originally planned, then find another time in the day to get your jam session in rather than erasing it all together. And I think that's really critical. I think we just kind of, delete it, scooch it away, and don't worry about it. I'll catch up at another time. So, it is an appointment with me, and it's critical. It's a critical factor. The other thing I wanted to say is, again, I use Darren's, living your best life ever, weekly rhythm, and jam sessions are in my rhythm. And when I write that I'm going to do X amount of jam sessions, and I have to put 0 in there or 1 out of 7 that I wanted to do, it's an accountability factor for myself, and I can't stand he puts a sad face, and that's what I do too. If I don't hit my goal, I put a sad face, and I don't like looking at it. So it's a psyche and a mindset of it. And then the last thing I wanted to say was that we mentioned this, I had mentioned this before as well, is that when one of the reasons why I do so many jam sessions is each jam session has a different theme. So I do a jam session for, like I just wrote a book, right? And it just got released the other day. So my jam session was all about the book. The next jam session was all about putting a presentation together for a real estate office. The next jam session was working on scripts. Those jam sessions were not working on a script and working on a presentation. Okay, so, and then some of my jam sessions are total cost analysis, where I'm jamming them all for the day to get them finished up. So I think if you can compartmentalize the activity inside of the jam session will go much faster and you'll get much more done.
No, I love that. I think that's so true, and I love the fact that you're committed enough that if you don't do your jam session in the morning, that you could do it at night. For me, that was so hard. It was I so many times if I didn't get it done in the morning, it never got done for me. And I think your advice of doing it away from the office is huge. I would say that for the first dozen years I did jam sessions, I would leave my house, I'd go to a coffee place or a restaurant, have breakfast and coffee, and sit there. My wife hated it because I would turn off my phone and she couldn't get a hold of me. But I sat there and I did work. It was only really in the last couple of years where I got the buy-in from my team. I limited my distractions in my office where I could show up in my office and do them in the morning, put the Do Not Disturb sign on, which thankfully my team, they understood why I was doing it, what the benefit was for them. And that's probably the other part of it that we didn't mention that Darren suggests. You've got to get buy-in from those around you to help you protect that on time, because if you don't protect it, it's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and I think too, and that's a really great point that you make as well with your team, is have the buy-in. All of us at the office, because I do more than 5 a week, so it's not just 1 a day. So I'll do them in the middle of the day to return phone calls that came in from the morning. Okay, all of my team is on jam session schedule. We are all doing jam sessions at the same time. And the activities that we're doing have to do with trying to explain it. The activities that each of us is doing during a jam session, when we're finished with the jam session, if you can visualize everybody walking out of their door and then doing follow-up for everyone based on that jam session that they had. So it's not counterintuitive jam sessions. We're all moving together in the same. We're all in a rowboat stroking that, the oar at the same time. So, for example, my processor might be reviewing a new loan, right? And so when she's done with her jam session, the next jam session for my mortgage planner is to follow up with the conditions. And then at the same time, my processor might be now submitting loans. So that we all get our work done at the same time. So I can elaborate
that's key
later.
Too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's key, because keep in mind, is those of you who lead, those of you who feel like you're in different positions, right? You're always going to be working on different things, right? And so I love the fact that you talked about, right? You did your mortgage coach activities, you did total cost analysis, you may be working on a script, and then team members are going to be doing something different, because I think that you also have to think about it. You're in the mortgage business. Many of you have assistants, or you've got processors or someone else that you have some influence over, and oftentimes they're reacting all day too, right? They're checking their email first, which, again, a lot of them have to do based on what their role is. But then, when you look at some companies will put their processors or underwriters on quiet time, right? No bugging them. And then all of a sudden they get a lot more done versus when, they allow loan officers to ping them all day, and lo and behold, their per file files per day productivity, goes down dramatically. So be thinking through the people around you that you can potentially influence there. Don't forget, you guys, that this is a mastermind, so feel free to raise your hands and go to meeting or type a question into the question area. We'd love to have some people give us some feedback. Are you back, Dave Savage?
I am back. So
There
I
he is.
had a technical challenge, and I noticed there's a few people we need to add to the group. We will get you added in a minute. Couple takeaways, and then I do want to move on to another topic because I want to make sure we precisely answer Kristen Cooper's question. So, Kristen, we're going to answer this question in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to net out a few things. So we as a group and as a community have come to the best practice that a mortgage coach professional that is being strategic, highly productive with their time, is doing 5 to 8 jam sessions a week. So, that was the number that, we all agreed with. 10, that's a lot for a loan officer, but 5 to 8, that's being highly strategic, highly effective. So that's why we have it here. So not only do we have it on our 12 reminder document, but in Todd's document, that's on time. And so, at a minimum, whether you're using Todd's, Win by Noon planner, whatever planner you have, you need to start measuring and you need to start marking it. How many are you doing? How many are you scheduling? So I'm gonna pass it around the room in just a minute, and I'll answer Kristen's question right here. Again, the question is success. She's looking for ideas and strategies on how to balance marketing and supporting referral partners while having time to be relational, not transactional, with borrowers. So everybody's gonna get a chance to answer that question on today's call. But Todd, I want to just net it out really quick for folks. We might even take it and edit this, so be thoughtful about how you answer my question. But I want you to describe in as concisely and effectively as you can what is a jam session.
Well, and I think that Dave did a good job for it. To me, a jam session is proactive time in a bubble of silence with no interruptions, where you're working on your business, on whatever that one thing is that's most important today to move your business forward.
Okay, you did that in
Short
less
enough?
than a minute. No, you did it in a minute or less. Dave Gallegos, in a minute or less, what is a jam session?
So you weren't on the call for this, but same thing. So everything's off. There's a specific goal. So I think Jen kind of hit on this really well as well. There's a specific purpose for the jam session. So and it's everything's off. You're away from phones, email, everything. Nobody can access you, and people know what's going on. So that's another part of it, is making sure that your team knows what you're doing so that you're not interrupted.
Okay. No, but by the way, I did hear you say it, but again,
Okay.
I have a purpose. So, Jen, I'm going to ask you two, and Michelle, I'm going to ask you a minute or less, not a 2 minute, not 3 minutes, a minute or less.
Hey.
I'm timing you. What is the jam session?
Do you want me to go first? It's Jen.
Go for it.
Yeah. Intentional, focused activities that move the needle in your business.
Beautiful. Michelle, wrapping it up with you, what is a jam session?
Jam session to me is I put on a high energy 80s music, no emails, no other computers, looking for an intentional goal with a measurable result.
Beautiful. Todd, I'll give you a bookend. Is there anything that wasn't said within that definition and description of a jam session?
No, I think this group are a bunch of rock stars. They hit out of the park.
Okay, so everybody knows what a jam session is. Everybody knows that best practices of insanely effective mortgage professionals are doing 5 to 8 of those per week. And next week, I will be doing a survey question, again, to kick off our Friday call. Myself or Todd will ask the question, how many jam sessions did you do this week? And the right answer is 5 to 8. And if not, let's talk about that. Come to the next mastermind. Let's talk about challenges you're having. If we did it a little bit today, but maybe we can expand on ideas for jam sessions. One last ask for the community, and then we're going to focus on Kristen's question. If you did a jam session last week and it was highly effective, like I had this awesome jam session and I did blank, what did you do? What was your best jam session last week? Give me a sentence. Post it in the question section of GoToWebinar. Remember, this is a mastermind. The more you give, the more you get. So please give us a sentence. Give me a sentence on what was the best. What did you do during the best jam session of last week? So let's do this. We got 19 minutes left to go in today's call. Todd, I'm going to give you the first crack at this question. Jam sessions might be part of what you recommend as a strategy and idea, but how would you answer this question from Kristen Cooper, top producer in the Sacramento market with Prime Lending?
You know, I mean, for me, and I always hate to be repetitive on it, but I determined that my best bet was to do my loan officer activities in the morning. And as long as I planned those out, then I had all afternoon to be relational with whomever I needed to be relational with, whether it was meeting with clients or whether it was meeting with realtors. And so, you know, that's why literally every day of the month but one, when I spoke at a RE/MAX office the first Tuesday of every month, every other day I was sequestered away, right? I started off with some amount of a jam session, and then I went right into my activities as a loan officer. And so I was able to really make it segmented, and just as Jen had said earlier, it was a ritual for me. I did it every day the same way, and it was just really rare that there was anything else that took me off track. If it was, you know, a great opportunity, a huge producer that says, hey, I can only meet with you if you can meet with me at 10 on Thursday, then, you know, by all means, I wasn't dumb. I would do that, but it had to be a really important meeting, and I had to push back on someone, or my team had to push back. If they said, oh, can Todd meet at 10? They'd say, oh, you know what, he's got a commitment at that time. Could he meet you at noon? And again, 99 times out of 100, they would say yes. It was just really rare where someone was so strict in their schedule. And again, the top producing realtors were, where they could do it. And again, my studies of top producing realtors is that they were all doing kind of jam session type work. All their prospecting was outbound in the morning. And so for me, it was just living off my calendar. You know, I still find now if I don't actually put it on my calendar and live off my calendar, I make mistakes. I ironically got off the call last week. I had a few people reach out to me who wanted to connect on coaching, and, you know, lo and behold, I pushed a couple of them through Building Champion sales team and to arrange the calls, because I'm not allowed to put anything on my own coaching calendar. That's my agreement with my assistant. She doesn't want me to mess anything up. And, you know, lo and behold, the two that I tried to schedule myself, I missed both of them. And I'm like, all right, that's super embarrassing. But again, you got to schedule that time. And so you got to know when your rhythm is. Darren kind of talks about it. You know, for him, you know, most people I know work out in the morning. Darren's like, oh my gosh, I got to work out in the evening. And so just think through when you're at your best to do those things. But I would think that for most loan officers that I talk to and coach, it's plan all the activities you have to do in the morning when you can control it, before you have to be super reactionary when the rest of the world tends to bug you, is going to be in the afternoon. And then take the afternoon and schedule that away and be as relational and go after your realtors and do all that talking. Does that make sense?
That was, it does. That was a lot of value in like 2 minutes. So kudos to you, bro. And Kristen, hopefully that was valuable. If you are on this call and you want us to get a little more specific, or you actually want to have a conversation, I can unmute you and bring you in with the team. But let's go around the room. And Jen, why don't you go next? How would you answer this question?
Yeah, so, you know, I echo everything that Todd has to say. I mean, I think that, you know, sometimes we sound like broken records on here, but that's okay. I mean, I think it's important for everyone to hear it, you know, 9 ways to Sunday, in order to grab the concept. I believe what this challenge is really about time blocking. You know, we're talking about jam sessions, but we're also talking about time blocking. And I call it interval working, you know, if you don't like the word, but the myth is that time blocking will restrict your life. The fact is, time blocking frees your life, you know, for you to do more things in less amount of time. And so everything that Todd had to say about the morning, and I've already addressed it too, you know, I spend, you know, the majority of my morning doing lead generating activities, getting my head on straight so I know what I need to do. And then I spend the balance of the day going out and strumming up business, you know. And but one of the things that might help is that I do segment this. So any phone calls I get from clients, let's say from 9 a.m. to noon, are returned that afternoon in a time block. Anybody who contacts me from noon to 5, I return that phone call at my time block in the morning from 9 to 10. And I think that as salespeople, what we are is that we are reactive, not responsive. We tend to react and feel that, hey, it's a deal, I got to call, and we're running around like chickens with our head cut off. And like Michelle was saying, the chaos ensues as a result of that. I'm just going to ask a very simple question, which is, would you mind if I called between 2 and 4 this afternoon so that I'm in front of my computer and I can dedicate my time and attention to serving you properly? Because their answer is going to be yes. I mean, how many times have you asked for something and someone says, well, I'll get it to you in an hour, and I go, yeah, I just need it in a day or two. You know, I need it by the end of the day. So we need to be responsive and not reactive by asking that question of, would it be okay if I called you between 3 and 4, or 2 and 4? And don't say 3. Don't say 3:30, because then that puts other undue stress on you. Now they know you're going to call between the hours of 2 and 4, and that gives you the latitude to have the necessary phone calls with the preceding clients before you make that call. So that might help as well to just, you know, isolate when you're making these phone calls instead of, if you think of an email, right? Your email that's coming in, it's, you know, the appraisal came in, here's a lead. I need to know what the status is on this loan. Hey, do you want to attend this event? And all of that is not compartmentalized, and that's what makes it so difficult to get through email. So if you can extract those and put them into compartments again, and having, you know, all your phone calls done at one time, all of your review of loans at one time, all of your TCAs at one time. I think that you're going to find that it'll give you all the time that you need to be present at your appointments with your realtor so that you're not thinking about your loans, and the appointments with your clients so you're not thinking about responding to a realtor.
There's a lot of gems there.
Yeah, a lot of gems there. And I want to remind everybody who's listening to this, you know, the mentors and the leaders are some of the most successful and highly productive loan originators in the business today. And again, I've interviewed the most successful loan officers in America, and the folks on this call are the ones that I think, you know, epitomize personal productivity, and they're also great teachers. So they're people that have had very high levels of personal success, and they're great teachers, and they've been through the Insane Productivity Program, so we're all talking the same language. So, Michelle Town, how would you answer that question?
I'm going to follow pretty much everybody, and I'm going to say time blocking probably was the number one thing that helped me, and I was very much like Jen. I thought, well, I had the same forethought. I thought it was going to be very restrictive, and it was freeing. But the other thing is I don't multitask anymore. You know, I just don't. I mean, that was from Insane Productivity, and if you, Kristen, if you sit there and time block off for your, I'm going to do this time for your realtors and find the time that works for them. Like Todd said, you know, the mornings they're probably doing their same jam session, so maybe pick the afternoons. But I think that will help you tremendously, and just be consistent. I think that's probably my theme for this last week, is being consistent, because it's really helped me stay on track.
And Michelle, and how much volume did you do last year? What kind of loan volume did you do?
I did a little over 100 million.
So I mean, folks, you know, you're talking to a mortgage professional that does over 100 million a year, and she said, I don't multitask anymore. You know, I talk to a lot of loan officers, and I interview loan officers at all levels of success. I interview loan officers that do over 100 million. I interview loan officers that do around 50-ish. I interview loan officers that do 20 to 30. And I interview loan officers that are struggling to get over, you know, 3 to 5 loans a month. And I find it interesting, you know, when I talk to a Michelle Town, I talk to a Jen, I talk to a Todd Blitzspan, Danny Harani, who's another mentor. Every family gets a total cost analysis. I talk to a lot of loan officers that do less than 5 loans a month that tell me they don't have time to do a total cost analysis. I hear from, you know, these folks that, you know, I'm not multitasking. I'm getting my jam sessions in. I'm being intentional. So I, and every time I've interviewed a great loan officer that kind of like went from 50 to 80 or went from 30 to 50, they had a breakthrough. There was always just, usually the breakthrough is they were more clear on their goals than ever before. They measured what mattered better than before, and they were more intentional around execution of their strategy. So anyways, I just find that interesting. So Dave Gallegos, and everybody who doesn't know Dave is a non-producing branch manager, but he has developed some of the most successful loan officers. I mean, Giuseppe, who uses Mortgage Coach with every single client. How much did Giuseppe do last year? Over 100 million?
300 units, 95, just under 95 million, no, right at 95 million.
Yeah, so this is a branch manager, and he brought Giuseppe into the business. He's mentored and led a lot of loan officers. How do you answer this question for Chris?
It's a great question too. I really think everybody's hit on all the right stuff as far as the scheduling and everything else. The one thing that we haven't touched on is that I think is very important to the relational side of this. How do you maintain a relationship, not transactional, with your clients? And I think that points to what I would, if I was being asked this question by one of my guys, I'd say that's how you do a loan. That's your perfect loan process. That's your sales funnel. That's, Mike White taught me this, Tim Brahim. It's how does a client go from suspect, and I hate using client or suspects, but suspect to closed customer. How do they go through that funnel and coming out the other end so that you get 100% of all of their repeat and referral business for life? And it's being that when you have that intention, when you build your sales funnel and you build how you're going to take care of your clients, you can't help but be relational. If it's just once I grasped that concept and we started to implement processes and systems in our branch while I was still producing, that we really started to, the repeat and referral business went, and that's how you get it. It's the way you take a client through your system. So everybody's got a system. Everybody on this call and all the people that are talking have systems or how they do business. It's very intentional, and if you have that intentional process, you can't help but have a relationship with every one of those clients.
I think that's huge. And so, what I would throw in there is that I think if you kind of think about what Dave just said and you kind of tie that in with what Michelle and Jen said, right? It's if you're calendaring your day, you're time blocking out. You can't time block 8 straight hours. You got to have you do have to have space to react. But if you're having the courage, and I always use that word with loan officers, I think you have to have the courage to then use a script to someone, say, awesome, I'm tied up. Can I call you back between 3 and 4 when I'm better prepared? So that takes courage. Most people think you have to take the call and react right then. But if you're scheduling time, you're scheduling when you're calling your agents, then you have the time. If you're intentional, like using Dave's word, I think is great, then it's easy to be relational because you're not reacting, you're not rushing, you're not in a hurry. If you've got time between 3 and 4 this afternoon to have the phone call with the realtors, then you're being relational. If you have time this afternoon for the return phone call to your client or to meet with your client, you're being relational because you've planned it out. If you're just consistently reacting all day because you're not blocking that time to do those activities, then you're just never going to build those relationships. You're always going to sound really busy.
No doubt. So Krista, first of all, it's a great question. I think we can continue to have a dialogue around it. I'm absolutely willing to bring this into next week's conversation. Dave, I love the color you put around the perfect loan process. And actually, I had a prep call with Wally Elderberry, does over 100 million in volume out of Dallas with Cornerstone, and him and I are actually, he's going to be my interview, not this Tuesday. This Tuesday, I'm interviewing Steve Scanlon around how to, change habits. It's interesting. Him and I were having a conversation where a couple weeks ago I asked everybody, how many videos do you create per day? And, everybody answered it. At the end of the call, literally everybody who had never created one said, I'm going to create a video over the next 3 days. And then when I surveyed everybody a week later, there was a little bit of improvement. And this week there's a lot of improvement, but there's still a lot of people that haven't taken action. You know what to do, but you're not doing it. So we're going to talk about that next Tuesday. But then the following Tuesday, we're going to talk about how to take a client from a prospect to a client for life. And so I would say, one, that's going to be a great call. I would also recommend anybody who wants to, spend some time auditing their perfect loan process. I've done a lot of interviews around that. The interviews I've done with Tim Brahim recently, were dedicated to getting clear on your perfect loan process. And Todd and I interviewed a top producer, another $100 million a year producer, on, hey, how has the perfect loan process evolved? And one of the big evolutions that most people have done is, they've added video, whether that's adding the total cost analysis video to the loan, but they're, upgrading and getting clear on your perfect loan process. And then everything else I said is, I think, how we're netting out the answer. So guys, we've got 4 minutes left in today's call. Joe Detmer wanted to know, what is the average time for a jam session? And Joe, the answer to that is Darren recommends 90 minutes. That is enough time to get deep, really get meaningful work done. I'm like ADD, like real deal ADD. And there was a time when, I couldn't, it was just so painful. I couldn't do jam sessions for more than 30, 40 minutes. For me, if I go an hour, I'm really proud of myself. I can't remember the last time I did a 90-minute jam session, but I'm 45 minutes to an hour, on a personal level, and I'm feeling productive, and I feel that when I do that, I'm executing well. Todd, would you answer that question for Joe any differently, or would you like to add any color to that question that came in from Joe Detmer?
No, I think you're spot on. I think a lot of it depends on really what is the project that you need to work on, how much time is it going to take, and knowing your body. Like I always chuckle when Dave talks about the fact that he was doing short jam sessions, because for me, I always was shooting for an hour, but there were so many times where I was worn out after 30 to 45 minutes because I'm not ADD, but I'm like borderline ADD. And so I totally understand that. And so I've tried to push it up, as I mentioned earlier. Right now, I'm focused on 30 minutes, right? I'm on the road. That's all I have this week is 30 minutes before I got a commitment with the family. And I've got a little bit more time. So if I go over, that's great. I can use it. But for me, historically, it was an hour. For most of my clients, it's an hour. I've got a few super achievers who Dave's featured before, and they're doing 3 to 5 hours on a Friday. So some people are saving it all up at once. I found little bites throughout the week was a whole lot better for me.
Yeah, and then Ed just added a comment. This is what Ed said. I highly recommend a book called Deep Work that supports the effectiveness of jam sessions by discussing the actual research that supports them. You'll pick up some tips and you'll make them more effective. So that was Ed, thank you for that. Ed, I would also ask you to post that in our Facebook group so that it's there, as a memory for everyone. It's not just a shout out that I put here. So today's call will be posted within a couple hours. We always put these, and there'll be both a link on our YouTube channel. The video will be in our YouTube channel, and we'll post it in this Facebook group. I highly recommend that you tell other folks about this call. We want to grow this to being a very robust community within a community. Mortgage Coach is a community of mortgage professionals that are all have this common theme that we want to be coaches, we want to be advisors, and we believe in leveraging technology. It makes us better. So that's Mortgage Coach community. And same productivity community within Mortgage Coach is just all about maximizing personal productivity, getting the most out of every hour of the day, growing your production as quickly as possible. So this is a community within a community. I hope you will be here again next Friday at 9, and I hope you will let other mortgage professionals. We do not limit this to just Mortgage Coach members. So this is eligible, and any loan officer can sign up for this that connects with our community. Thanks for those of you that engaged in the poll. For those of you that asked questions, Bryce, I apologize that we didn't get to your question here. You posted that at the beginning of the call. I didn't see it. We will make sure we speak to that next week. And then we will also maybe see if one of us can either record a video or answer in a little bit. But thank you, Bryce, for engaging, participating, and I'll make sure we get this question answered between this week and next. Todd, any parting thoughts before we wrap up today's call?
No, I love the conversation. I think it's such a pivotal part of the successful loan officers week, on-time jam sessions, whatever you want to call them. And so my encouragement is, if you haven't done them, get it scheduled. Great time to do it is heading off of this call. I realize you're all anxious to return texts and phone calls that came in over the last hour and check your email. I would say don't do it. Jump in now and do one. There's no better time like now. Worst case, get one scheduled for early next week. Love to hear some success stories around that. Certainly, if you got struggles, reach out to any of us mentors on the call. I thought you guys were awesome today, and appreciate, Dave, you hosting, getting this thing together for our community. I think it's really, really powerful and really important.
I love it. And Todd, I like how you closed it. I hope the takeaway for anybody on this call, if you do not schedule a jam session in Outlook with a reminder and a alarm, you basically didn't take action on what we talked about in today's call. So please, and for you high achievers, schedule 3, schedule 4 jam sessions right now. Don't get in your inbox. Schedule your jam sessions so that you can have more on-time, more deep work within your mortgage practice. You will see the results. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we look forward to the next Insane Productivity Mastermind, 9 o'clock next Friday. Jen, Michelle, Dave, so grateful for the time and the investment you put in to be here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. We love it.
Right. Take care, everybody. Have an awesome weekend.